Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson! Welcome to the Movie Wire.
I bet all the listeners are wondering how to keep up with the Movie Wire. Everything is so hard with all the content out there, with all the new podcasts. Well, luckily, Newsly is a new audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science to Bitcoin. You can even follow a Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? The Movie Wire is now on Newsly as a featured podcast, and they have podcasts from over 50 countries. You can also get a 1-month free premium subscription by typing in one of the Movie Wire's promo codes that will be listed in the podcast description. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today.
Movie Wire podcast talking about movies with Justin Henson.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and thank you for tuning in. We have had a fantastic week at the movies this week. We will be reviewing 3 new feature films, including a much better multiverse movie than Doctor Strange, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, the new horror movie about porn stars at a barn farm. Definitely make you either feel uncomfortable or it will separate you weirdos, called X. And finally, The Outfit starring Mark Rylance. Ready to hear my verdict? Let's get into it.
In the multiverse, you can live up to your ultimate potential.
What's happening?
You discovered a way to temporarily link your consciousness to another version of yourself. Accessing all of the memories and skills. It's called verse jumping. There's a great evil spreading like the many verses. And you may be our only chance of stopping it.
It's crazy. You're starting to get it.
This is going to be my second review in a week about a multiverse movie. Last week, I reviewed Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and as I said in my review, that was a film that got held back by red tape and high criteria that Marvel places on the filmmakers. Then comes this movie, about a multiverse that must have been a complete gamble for the studio. I can only imagine reading the script sober and saying, that sounds like a great movie. No, this movie must have looked bonkers on paper. This movie is the result of letting creative juices flow and investing in a creative team. That a feat that Marvel cannot let go of no matter who the director is. The film stars Michelle Yeoh as Evelyn Wang, an aging Chinese immigrant who swept up in an insane adventure where she alone can save the world by exploring other universes, connecting with the lives she could have led. The film also brings back some childhood giddiness to me by bringing in Ke Huy Quan, who many of us know as Short Round from the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Quan plays the husband, Waymond Wang. The film kicks us off right away with a very busy household that is very chaotic. So chaotic to the point it was giving me anxiety and stress just watching it. The last time a film did that was Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler. Watching the Wang family and their stressful household really starts to define the title of Everything Everywhere All at Once. The Wangs find themselves in some financial woes with the IRS, and they have a meeting with their IRS auditor, Dietrich, played by the one and only Jamie Lee Curtis. In the IRS building, Evelyn is visited by another version of her husband, Waymond, who is asking for Evelyn's help to save the universe. Now, before we deep dive into this movie, I just want to say that this is not a one-time watch. This is a multiple times you have to see this movie to really respect what you're viewing. There is a lot to this movie to take in. But if you enjoyed some of the plot points and you don't really want to think about it, that's you. You don't have to see it multiple times. And I can understand that this might not be some audience's cup of tea. And I'll talk about some of those examples later in this. But this movie isn't without its obvious plot holes. And wait a minute moments. It has some flaws, as you are to expect when covering such topics as time travel, or in this case, the multiverse concept. But the film takes us on a journey that's pure relatable, pure honest, and fun, that we forgive that in this film. It's like when your uncle says something inappropriate at the dinner table, and you just simply change the topic. That's what this film does, but in a smart way. The film covers a lot of genres from sci-fi to comedy to drama, and one genre is hard for some filmmakers to master, and there is a lot of emotion to cover successfully in this film, especially with so many plot points going in different directions. The film was directed by Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, who both recently wrote and directed the Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano film Swiss Army Men about a farting corpse. And it doesn't surprise me these two would come up with something like this. These two filmmakers have a good chemistry, and they really seem to push the envelope to the point of a positive insanity. They are the definition of the popular saying, "It's so crazy, it just might work." And this film, it does. The film successfully will make you laugh. It'll make you cry. It'll make you think beyond what you are just witnessing on the screen. The film takes you on a journey of emotion without even realizing you're on it. The action sequences are some of the most well-choreographed fighting scenes I have seen in a long time. This film will be this generation's Matrix when it comes to its action scenes. What I liked about what the filmmakers put in these action scenes is a level of absurdity where you ask yourself, did I actually just see that? They also take some of the most basic props and even turn those into a focus, whether it's chapstick, a Bluetooth headset from 2007, dildos, butt plugs, and yeah, I did say a dildo and butt plugs, but I'll get into that in a second. By adding these basic props, it segues naturally into a comedy sketch that is, again, something I have not seen before. Now, there are scenes in this film that had me laughing hysterically because of how bizarre it is. And I started laughing about it about 30 minutes later after it happens while watching the movie. And then when I left the theater, I was still laughing. I was still laughing at what I witnessed in this over 2-hour movie. The film is very funny, and I have a feeling this will have a cult following after it reaches more audiences. Now, just recently, I talked about having creative limitations in film and limiting the audience and the amount of people that come see your movie if it's rated R. The filmmakers definitely took a mile when the studio gave them an inch. I can never picture Marvel following this formula. Can never picture Marvel giving the go-ahead of Thor pulling out his mighty dildo or the Hulk jumping on a butt plug during a battle. But hey, that's Marvel's prerogative. Not everybody wants to see it, I get it. But there are fight scenes in this film that involve sex toys, and they are very clever to the point where you're just staring at it in amazement. It's like when Thor pulls out his hammer for the first time. You just kind of stare on what you're witnessing on the screen. Now, there's a lot to discuss about this film when you leave. It is a great discussion film, and like I said, needs to be watched a couple times to really appreciate the message it's sending. The film does start to lose a little bit of steam towards the final act, where we find the filmmakers trying to tie their messaging of the film into a nice little bow. This holds the movie back a little. The movie runs for about 2 hours and 20 minutes, but could have cut the additional 20 minutes where I found a couple of times where it could have come to an end. But at the same time, if the filmmakers wanted that extra 20 minutes to over-explain their messaging, they absolutely earned it for the risk, entertainment, and emotional ride they released into the world for the audiences to enjoy. The film is set to release on digital platforms next week. Make sure not to miss this one, giving it 3.5 stars.
You need people like me.
The Movie Wire.
Just when you thought you couldn't live without another remake, HBO Max has got you covered. They just released a trailer to a remake you apparently can't live without, Father of the Bride. Now, Father of the Bride was originally released in 1950, starring Spencer Tracy, and then remade in 1991, starring Steve Martin, which had a follow-up, Father of the Bride 2. Now we get the 2022 version of it. Now, the plot follows kind of the same synopsis here. A father is coming to grips with his daughter's upcoming wedding through the prism of multiple relationships within a big, sprawling family. Now, this one follows the same plot line, but it does have some other twists. Now, the one thing that stood out is Andy Garcia in this trailer, and not in a good way. Now, we're all familiar with Steve Martin being the party pooper, kind of the stickler in the mud, but the character was well written where we see his intentions and we just loved him. This one, Andy Garcia just looks like an asshole. This family just looks miserable. They throw in some divorce between the parents. There's nothing appealing about this trailer. The second half of the trailer, it starts to pick up and we have a little bit of fun with it, but that's when the characters stop talking. That's a horrible sign when I start enjoying a trailer when there's no speaking parts. I'll be curious to see how this one lands. It's going to be a toss-up, but Andy Garcia, I can't see as a father figure in this kind of film. But you know what? I've been taken by surprise before. I'm still going to see it, so we'll see on But if you want to check out the trailer, I have it on themoviewire.com. Take a look at it. We'll be reviewing that one on a future show. You can guarantee that. Now, on the last show, we covered a couple financial woes that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness could face, with some countries not showing it. But Doctor Strange is now racked up a whopping $450 million over the weekend. $185 million in North America and $265 million in 49 markets, which again combines at $450 million. Now, that compares with a $678 million lifetime Doctor Strange goal. This movie is doing fantastic, as expected with most Marvel movies. And of course, this is not covering two of the bigger markets that have yet to release it, or we don't know if they're going to be released, which is Russia and China. Both areas contributed on the previous film over $130 million combined. Now, this film isn't as on track as Spider-Man No Way Home. It's about 25% less than what Spider-Man was at the time of release. But this film is definitely on track, and in no way, shape, or form is his movie going to have financial woes. This movie is in the safe zone for the 3-day opening weekend, and who's to say the mixed reviews for this movie definitely hasn't stopped the momentum from people going out and seeing it, and it will continue to do well. I'll be curious to see what the second weekend will do after word of mouth gets out, and we'll definitely keep you updated on that as well. And I thought I'd end the news segment with talking about 4 movies that I will be reviewing for the rest of the month of May, starting with the remake of the 1984 cult classic Firestarter. Now, this version is going to star Zac Efron and Sidney Lemon. Look forward to that one. Not only that, but the Disney Plus exclusive Rescue Rangers. Now, I talked on previous shows on how Disney Plus has disappointed their original content, and I hope to God they don't screw this one up. This one I'm very looking forward to because I'm a big Disney Afternoon Rescue Rangers fan, so look for that review. That one comes out May 20th. And the 2 last movies that are highly anticipated is Top Gun Maverick and the Bob's Burger movie, both releasing May 27th. That is going to be a busy, busy box office weekend. Listen for those reviews. They're coming soon to the Movie Wire.
Are you a nerd? Are you a person? Then check out Voluntary Input, where we not only have open discussions about tech, TV, movies, and gaming, but also open discussions about people. and sometimes with the people behind the tech. Catch new episodes with me, Leo Allen, bi-weekly on Tuesdays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Good Pods, and pretty much everywhere else you listen to podcasts. And be sure to check out videos of every episode on YouTube and Twitch. Simply go to voluntaryinput.com to find all the ways you can listen to us, contact us, and better yet, select register as a guest to be a guest on the show, because we are always looking for great guests like you.
Never forced, never coerced. Welcome to Voluntary Input.
You've been all over the world. You could have a shop anywhere you like, and yet you're here.
It doesn't terribly much matter where I am. I have my shears.
What else does a man need besides his shears?
This isn't art. This is a craft. You cannot make something good until you understand the customer.
Do we let all of our customers keep black boxes and back?
If we only allowed angels to be customers, soon we'd have no customers at all. Please, sirs, I don't want any trouble.
I need you to listen carefully. There are 1,000 blue boys out there hunting for this. And if they find it, I start shooting, you follow? Making matters worse, there are 1,000 racket boys hunting for it too. And if they find it, they start shooting, you follow?
Don't want to be involved in whatever it is you do.
You know exactly what it is that we do.
Whoa. Full house tonight, huh?
Have you ever heard of The Outfit?
The Outfit?
It's a network of every big-time crew from Santa Monica to Coney Island. And tonight, they sent us a message. They're hiding something, my friend.
I'm gonna need that tape, pal, right now.
Why don't you try and take it?
Gentlemen.
It's gonna be a long night.
Sew him up.
What? I can't.
Sew him up.
You need to tell me what really happened in here tonight. Now. You got 5 seconds to tell me what happened.
Open the trunk. What? Open the trunk and grab his arms, or I'm hiding 2 bodies.
5,
A number of things about me that you don't know.
4,
Where's the tape, Francis?
3.
I'm telling you the truth.
You want to survive the night? You look them dead in the eyes, and you pretend you're one of them.
A master English tailor, Leonard, played by Mark Rylance, operates a corner tailor shop with his assistant, Mabel, played by Zoe Deutch. He makes beautiful clothes for only the people around who can afford them. A family of vicious gangsters. One unfortunate night, 2 mobsters knock on his door in need of a favor. Leonard is thrust into a deadly game of deception and cat and mouse. Now, there are times where I complain that there are not enough dialogue-driven thrillers anymore, and this movie understands a good slow burn. This movie finds a rock and turns it into a diamond. The movie is written and directed by Graham Moore, whose previous works include the incredible film The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch. Graham teams up with writer Jonathan McLean, whose resume is pretty slim besides the TV show Liv and Maddie that ran from 2014 to 2017. Now, watching this film, I could almost visualize it, the writing pair working together on this. The random calls throughout the days, throughout the night, asking each other, what if? The movie has one major stage that would be the tailor shop. The movie wastes no time in jumping into the environment that includes no opening title to the film. We are transported directly into the world of Leonard and his shop alongside his assistant Mabel. The two have an absolute lovely relationship that perks our interest as almost a father and daughter dynamic, in which the two joust about early in the first act. The movie keeps Leonard and Mabel very subtle as almost a backdrop to the mobsters that visit their shop to do mysterious drop-offs and letters of packages. Most movies that go this route of choosing the one backdrop are usually based on plays or a novel. This is an original piece, which makes it that much more special. The film reminded me of the film 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men was about 12 jurors that have to spend an hour-and-a-half runtime to decide the fate of a man on trial for murder. Now, I can deep dive and go on and on about 12 Angry Men on an hour-long episode. But let's get back to my next point of the 12 Angry Men. Now, if you haven't seen the film, you might not follow my next comment. Leonard is definitely the juror number 8 character. In 12 Angry Men, that juror has to be the one to convince the entire rest of the ensemble that the defendant is innocent. He stands on his own to convince the others. The two films are completely different films, but in style, suspense, and leaving the audience to make the decision of who is right and who is wrong, given the filmmakers make every character count when they're on screen. That includes likability, credibility, and how to move the story forward. Graham does a fantastic job keeping the audience engulfed into a world and a situation that Leonard is in. Mark Rylance, who has played some memorable odd roles, you might not recognize him in this film right away. You might remember him from films like Ready Player One as Holiday, the eccentric Steve Jobs mimic in Don't Look Up, and the giant from the BFG, and the incredible film Dunkirk. The film showcases Rylance's talents of being a versatile actor. And as I give this review, I realize I made a mistake on the description of his occupation, in which he makes clear in the film. He is not a tailor, he is a cutter, which is a craft. Rylance did prepare for the role by being trained in tailoring techniques by the famous Huntsman's tailors of Savile Row that you can see in the Kingsman series. And you can actually see the iconic house momentarily in the film. Rylance does a fantastic job at staying subtle but powerful and relevant in the film. Now, there's a thing that Leonard's character does in this movie that stuck with me. There's a couple scenes where Leonard picks up a cigarette box whenever a conversation builds to be chaotic, and he does this throughout the film, where he offers a cigarette to a young mob thug, Francis, played by Johnny Flynn, in which Leonard signals the audience to relax. He's got the situation under control. It's a true gentleman move and a great sight to see in the movie. It almost puts the audience at ease when we actually see it. The film is built upon lies, twists and turns, and never gives too much away. It takes us on a dialogue-driven thrill ride along with the cast. It makes the audience believe they don't even know where the film is headed, as an audience are on this journey together. There is a difference between a dialogue-driven film and one that invites the audience into its world to go along for the ride. The dialogue is well written, it's smart, it's realistic, without being over the top. The only character I had trouble connecting with that felt kinda miscast was Francis, played by Johnny Flynn. I had trouble connecting with him at times, and you can tell he felt intimidated by the style of this movie, where he seemed to be out of his element. His performance was too casual compared to the other cast members. I didn't get a believable take on his character in his performance, which is a complete shame, since he is a vital part of where this story goes. The film has a runtime of 1 hour and 45 minutes that completely flies by. The movie is smart, thrilling due to the cast and writers, uses no special effects as fillers. It uses the talent on screen to invite us into this amazing film. This is one of my favorite movies of the year, and so far one of the best movies of the year. It's available on most streaming platforms right now. The Outfit gets 3.5 stars.
Farmer's daughter, take one. I need to be famous, Wayne. All the best people are.
There ain't nobody else out there like you.
You know why?
Why?
'Cause you got that X Factor. Our days of struggling may soon be over.
Hollywood, here we go.
So this is it. Our own studio backlot.
You looking for a place to stay?
Oh, yes, sir.
That's one ugly son of a bitch.
And my wife, Pearl, is next door, so I would appreciate a little discretion.
He don't know what we're doing, does he?
Well, it's better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Would you like to come inside?
Much obliged.
I want to be in the movie.
Well, you can't. The story can't just change midway through.
If Daddy catches us, there's no telling what he might do.
My wife is not well. It happens after dark.
Maxine?
Did you?
People's eyes are gonna pop out of their damn skulls when they see this. What? Are you alright?
No.
One of the boys found this inside.
What do you think is on it?
I see one goddamn fucked up horror picture.
Coming soon to a church or Sunday school near you is the new pornographic horror film by Ty West entitled X. All right, I'm just kidding. It's not going to be a church or Sunday school. Set in 1979, adult movie actors and a small film crew arrive to a farmhouse occupied by an elderly couple in the desolate Texas countryside to film an adult movie. As the day shifts to night, the visitors slowly realize they are not safe and are being targeted by a nearby enemy. Again, directed by Ty West is X. Now, this movie actually took me by surprise. I'm a huge Ty West fan. I loved a lot of his previous works, which include The ABCs of Death, VHS, The Sacrament, and he did do Cabin Fever too, but we're not going to get into that. That movie was awful. But going into this movie, I was actually taken by surprise. Going into it, my expectation was another forgettable gore-fest, jump out and say boo, cash grab of a horror movie. That is not this movie. This movie actually does some very clever things. This movie actually has some very clever actors. This movie actually has some very good style to it. Now, it does have actors doing some very stupid things, but not in the same concept as other horror movies. In other horror movies, somebody will run out in the woods by themselves, running from a man in a mask or with a chainsaw or something stupid like that. The enemy in this film is an elderly couple that we would not expect. A normal person would not expect a senior citizen couple to be psychotic. Now, we can put ourselves in their situations, and we actually, and again, I don't want to say relate to the characters because I'm not in the porn industry, but we can relate to the actions that they do. Would you actually go into the woods with an elderly man? Our natural human nature says yes, if it's there to help the elderly. That's where this movie separates itself from other horror movies and is they use very clever villains. Now, even towards the third and fourth act, you still don't really suspect this elderly couple capable of a lot because they're elderly and they look like they're ready to die. Now, the movie was also written by Ty West, who has some clever writing here. He doesn't focus on the actual pornographic piece of it. He focuses mostly on the characters. Now, the marketing of it acts more like a porn video to gain audience, I'm sure. But the writing isn't focused around that aspect. Yes, the characters are there at a farm shooting a porn video, but they deep dive a little bit into the characters. They're there to improve their lives. They're there to make some money. They want to make it big. These are normal people that you can somewhat relate to other than shooting a porn film. Well, some of you can. I haven't personally shot a porn film, so I can't relate to that. But I can relate to the characters. And the characters, when they're off camera, not shooting their pornographic video, are real people. And they have real conversations. And the characters have a dialogue about why they're shooting it. This is something the opposite of what most horror genres do. They don't deep dive into the characters on why they are what they are. And that's what I found refreshing about this film. And you know what? The characters have a pretty decent chemistry to it. It stars Mia Goth, Jenna Ortega, and Brittany Snow, who have some previous work in horror films. Jenna Ortega is especially good in this film, who just recently played in the latest Scream movie. So Brittany Snow is very good. She was in Prom Night. And Mia Goth, who is actually really good in this film, that actually has done the recent Everest, and a personal favorite of mine, the Suspiria from 2018. So the characters are well immersed in the horror genre when it comes down to this. And the villains. Now let's get into this without getting anything away. You want to add a sense of creepiness. Now, the movie reminded me of the creepiness of M. Night Shyamalan's Visitor. who added kind of the same aspect of creepiness of an elderly couple alone with a group of kids. Now, this movie has kind of the same feel of adding that creepiness. It's almost like doing the opposite of when you put a child in a horror like Firestarter or The Good Son. So you're fast forwarding about 80 years and you're getting the opposite side of the tracks where you're having this innocence to this older couple that you wouldn't think in 1,000 years would actually terrorize a group of kids. Now, this is what keeps the audience on edge. The movie does have its moments of gore that's at times laughable, but we don't care about that when that happens. The audience is focused more on what this old couple is capable of. And that's where this movie is really successful in attacking not just the jump out and say boo scares, but building tension as it crescendos to what these older people are going to do to these group of kids that are obviously can outpower them. Now, the obvious question in this movie is why the kids don't outpower them, but the film does some smart things on working around that. It adds a creepy tone, and walking out of this movie theater definitely gives you a very odd, uncomfortable feeling. It's one of those movies that will somewhat ruin your day, and you'll think back on it, and you'll just kind of say gross. But at the same time, it's a great horror flick for what it is. It's an original concept for the most part. And you know what? This movie will entertain, it'll thrill, it'll keep you on the edge of your seat. It is a very successful horror movie with a lot of original ideas, given the subject matter. Ty West X gets 3 stars from me. That's my verdict. Now excuse me while I go get baptized.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nick. I'm the host of Nikolai's Kitchen, and I'm also the host of the annual Live Stream for the Cure. Live Stream for the Cure is a charity event where we raise money with content creators and podcast partners from around the world for the Cancer Research Institute, a wonderful nonprofit researching cancer immunotherapy, training the body's immune system to fight all forms of cancer. This is a mission and a future that I truly believe in. And myself and my team worked tirelessly over the past 5 years to raise over $50,000 for this cause. This year, we're aiming for our biggest single goal to date of $20,000, and we cannot do it without your help. Please join us for the event May 19th through the 21st, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern, for 45 hours of content from people all over the world. Together, we can bring hope for a future immune to cancer. The more eyes we reach, the more dollars we raise. Please help us in making this goal a reality. Together, we can make a difference.
That's it for this week's edition of The Movie Wire. Next week, I will be back with 3 brand new reviews, including the remake of the 1984 cult classic Firestarter starring Zac Efron. Until then, make sure you check out all my reviews at themoviewire.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MovieWireShow. And don't forget, stay for the credits to see all the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a movie, not just to see an extra piece of the movie. Until next week, support your local movie theaters, and we will see you at the movies.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at MovieWireShow or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.